chasm between the haves and the have-nots in the United States is growing wider by the day. And it is incredibly troubling that the government doesn't seem to want to step in or acknowledge this massive chasm. And, you know, when people are pushed to the brink, when they've seen for years that they have been stepped on, kneeled upon, and now in the age of the smartphone and body camera, you know, we're seeing more of it. But it's not because there's more of it. In fact, if you look at the numbers from Vox.com, where they analyzed this, the number of deaths by police officers, it's about 1,000. You know, about 1,000, and it like has stayed that way. But it disproportionately affects minorities, like 2 to 1. And so when you have that on top of the incredible pain that everyone's suffering because of this lockdown, and minorities that are, you know, in smaller houses and smaller properties, adversely affected in a way that, you know, remember, see, was it David Geffen, the billionaire music mogul who in the first few days of quarantine went out on his yacht, or his massive yacht, and tweeted a picture. It said like, I'm social distancing, with a big picture of his yacht. Like, how tone deaf. So it's like you see that world, and then you see individuals who are like right on top of each other, that have, you know, no government stimulus money coming to them. They're being told that they have to wait another few months because the government couldn't get its act together, couldn't get checks out in the mail. It's incredibly disturbing. And then you have, you know, Mitch McConnell and others in the Senate that say, we're going to take our vacation, we're going to go back to Kentucky, everyone's fine, we're going to wait and see how the first stimulus affected people. We're going to go take our vacation and enjoy some barbecues and stuff. I'm sure the American people aren't hurting. And then this country ignites over Memorial Day, literally. You know, that's why I talk about America being really an immature country. And other countries have managed to get it together. Other countries have hundreds of years of experience more than we do in dealing with this. Other countries are sort of scratching their head, like this massive racial inequality in the United States. Like, what is that? Like, these other countries have moved well beyond that in many respects. We see it with evictions. I mean, we're going to absolutely see it here with evictions over the next few days. This is what I'm most scared of, folks. I've told you this like last week. But when we see a wave of evictions, an avalanche of evictions unfolding over the next few weeks, because of no extra stimulus money coming in to pay rent, because the moratorium on evictions is now lifted, because states are saying you can now willy-nilly go forward with evictions and people don't have money to pay their bills, where are they going to be? They're going to be thrown out. Sheriffs are going to show up at people's doors. The local court system is going to be overwhelmed by evictions. Certain states are saying, no, you can't have evictions until like the end of the summer, like New Jersey and others. But other states are saying, yep, get back to it. Go ahead. The have-nots in the United States are being disproportionately crushed again. So unless, and I say, you know what, if we have to break down some of these systems, we have to break them down. Some of these systems that, I mean, they have not worked. Let's be honest, they have not worked. They need to crumble. Some of these government institutions, they need to crumble. The cracks have been there for a while, and maybe it's time that some of these government institutions start to crumble. And someone just said, you know, Mark Marcus says, it's all making me sick. It is. It's making me sick too. And I had a lot of privilege. I mean, I had a lot of, even though I grew up with not a lot of money, I could never put myself in the shoes of somebody that didn't have the type of privilege I had growing up. I mean, you have to try to put yourself in those shoes, but it's impossible. We can try to have empathy and understand as much as we can, but we will never be able to walk in those shoes and to experience that kind of hatred. An amazing piece that read this weekend by an African-American man. He's like 6'2", athletic, really strong. He says he would never, ever take a walk by himself. That instead he takes a walk with his dog and his little girl. And he said, what's amazing about that is that I'm not taking a walk with them in order to protect them. By me walking with my little girl and a dog, they are protecting me. Because if I'm walking by myself as a black man, I am seen as a threat. And he said, it just would never occur to me to walk by myself. I would take my little girl and my dog. I mean, can you imagine? I take a walk by myself every day. That wouldn't occur to me. So I get really bothered when anyone of privilege wants to sit there on their high horse and tell me or tell other people what it's like for them. They have no idea. So I think we are at a breaking point. In the midst of this massive pandemic, we're in the midst of this massive wave of evictions that we're about to see, a stimulus check that has not helped the most burdened of all of us, an economy that is crushed, 40 million people out of work, and billionaires made $434 billion over the past few months during this pandemic. It's hard not to see the outrage. If you're blind to it, I mean, we all need a moment of reflection here where we say something's got to break. The way that we were doing things is not working. The way that we're doing things as an immature country, when you compare us to the rest of the world, when you look at Germany with a 5% unemployment rate right now, where they have not, by the way, swept away the injustices of the past, right? They have museums dedicated to learning what unfolded during the Holocaust. And it will always be a part of the schooling. It's taught in all of their schools. They didn't hide it. It's like we try to hide the 1950s and 60s if it was we got past it. Thanks MLK, we got past it. We didn't. All of these other countries right now that have weathered this coronavirus pandemic better than we have because of their stimulus programs, the things that they have put in place to help their citizens of all races. When you look at Canada, when you look at what Australia has done with their Job Keepers program, when you look at Denmark, when you look at the UK, when you look at China about to pass this massive bill, a massive infrastructure package to get people back to work with direct payments to the Chinese people, with direct payments in the UK with their massive stimulus package in July. And yet the Senate was kicking it old school, hanging out, relaxing by the beach, enjoying their summertime. It's not even summer, enjoying their Memorial Day. I would love to know what it would be like to be in the mind of Mitch McConnell during the Memorial Day break when you had all of this unfolding in Minnesota, and you saw the outrage from Americans on the Senate being on vacation while they're suffering, worried about how they're going to pay their rent. Like, what must be going through the mind of somebody like that in power in the United States? Are they so disconnected? Are they so outside? Are they so inside of a bubble that they just don't understand? And this is an opportunity for all of us to vote, okay? I heard a great speech last night, and I was really moved by it. And the gentleman said, this is not a time to burn down our buildings, to burn down our community. It's a time to burn down the infrastructure, the things that have kept us, ensnarled in this. It's time to go to the polls. It's time to tell that prosecutor that put your brother away for 20 years because of marijuana and let that other guy out after a year. It's time to tell that prosecutor he's voted out of office. It's time to tell that senator who went on vacation during the coronavirus pandemic, when all these Americans were hurting so much. It's time to throw them out. Get them out and get real people in there that are going to listen and help the American people right now. I'm just disgusted by it, if you can't tell. I'm just, thank you for your comments. It's time to vote these people out. It's time to send a real wake-up call. And not just pay lip service. In the United States, we love to just pay lip service to things until it really bites us in the butt. What is it, Winston Churchill's famous comment about Americans? What does he say? Americans always do the right thing when there's no other choice. Let me find this exact quote. The Americans will always do the right thing after they've exhausted all the alternatives. Doesn't that feel like what we're doing right now? He's so right. He's so right. All of these other countries have put really smart stimulus packages in place to keep their countries afloat. Americans, we've been looking at every possible way of doing it wrong until we've exhausted all ways. 40 million Americans out of work, streets are aflame, and we finally do it right. And then we pat ourselves on the back, right? So just take that quote with you. The Americans will always do the right thing after they have exhausted all the alternatives. I'm going to leave that with you today, guys. I'm a little upset, as you can tell. It takes a lot for me to get this angry. But I thank you for joining us today. Thank you for all of your feedback. Thanks for being a great part of this community. If you're new here, please subscribe. We do these shows every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Hit that little bell notification so you'll be notified when we go live. You know, our job with this show is to bring you the very latest on the economy, how it affects you and your money. We're keeping our eye on the stimulus because there's no bigger news in the world to me than right now than that. Also, what's going on with our reopening efforts. And then more broadly, how can you start to build wealth in your family through real estate, gold and silver and crypto? How can you do the things that move you outside of this, slavish banking system where you have Goldman Sachs doing this, shorting the US dollar, betting against the US dollar because they know what's coming. It's our goal to help you build financial intelligence here on the show. So much love to all of you. Thanks everyone for your time. Grover says goodbye, although he's out on a walk right now. Much love to all of you. Stay strong, stay safe, and thank you. We'll see you again tomorrow.